Welcome to Tales of Honor, a podcast with a mission to tell the true stories of every recipient of our nation's highest military award, the Medal of Honor. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's episode of Tales of Honor podcast. This is the 1st of August, so it's going to be one of 9, I believe, for the month of August that we'll do. It's continuing on with recipients from the Vietnam War. So before we get into today's episode, I do have 2 birthdays to go over. And before I get to the birthdays, I do want to mention that in today's episode, I reference a documentary, which you will hear about when the time comes. I was able to find the documentary because I was curious as where to be able to watch it. There is a link in the show notes. I was able to find this documentary. I actually didn't have to look very long to find it on Vimeo. So it is able to be watched for free on Vimeo. It was originally aired at the GI Film Festival, so I don't know if it ever really made it into mass circulation. So I think you are able to buy it on DVD via Amazon, but I did find it on Vimeo. So there is a link in the show notes to the documentary mentioned in today's episode. Now let's move on to birthdays. Since today is August 1st, today's birthday is also August 1st, 1943. This belongs to Paul Bucca, who is a former Army captain who received the Medal of Honor for his actions during the Vietnam War. So a very happy 78th birthday to Mr. Paul Bucca. And tomorrow is the other birthday, August 2nd, 1945. This belongs to Jack Jacobs. He is a former Army colonel for his actions during the Vietnam War as well. So a very happy 76th birthday to Jack Jacobs tomorrow. And that is all I have for today. So let's move right on into today's Tale of Honor episode number 433. David was born on the 2nd of June, 1931, in Lowell, Massachusetts, and was one of 5 children born to Edward and Helen. David's father was a veteran of World War I and had earned the Distinguished Service Cross, the Silver Star, and the French Croix de Guerre for his actions, as well as 4 battle clasps on his campaign medal and a Purple Heart. The family moved from Massachusetts to Houston, Texas, when David was about 9 years old, and he graduated from St. Thomas High School in 1949. He followed in the footsteps of his father and entered military service after high school, enlisting in the U.S. Navy and serving in 2 deployments during the Korean War. He was discharged in 1952, and David attended the University of Houston for a short time before realizing that he did not like school and that the military service was more his style. He enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1953, and he married Parmelia in 1961, shortly before he volunteered for special warfare training. David was among the first 500 U.S. military advisors to be sent to Vietnam, and he returned for a second deployment in 1964, before being sent to Fort Lewis to help train. One company that he had been selected to train was Company A, 1st Battalion, 8th Infantry Regiment, 4th Infantry Division, and he was not originally supposed to deploy with the company, but due to the bond developed during the year's training, he volunteered to deploy for a 3rd time in 1966 as the 1st Sergeant of Company A. On the 21st of March, 1967, David's Company A, along with Company B, were dropped into the Valley of Tears to search for a missing long-range reconnaissance patrol, and it was his actions the following morning, just 15 minutes after breaking camp, that would earn him the Medal of Honor. The citation reads, First Sergeant McNerney distinguished himself when his unit was attacked by a North Vietnamese battalion near Po Lay Dock. Running through the hail of enemy fire to the area of heaviest contact, he was assisting in the development of a defensive perimeter when he encountered several enemy at close range. He killed the enemy but was painfully injured when blown from his feet by a grenade. In spite of this injury, he assaulted and destroyed an enemy machine gun position that had pinned down 5 of his comrades beyond the defensive line. Upon learning his commander and artillery forward observer had been killed, he assumed command of the company. He adjusted artillery fire to within 20 meters of the position in a daring measure to repulse enemy assaults. When the smoke grenades used to mark the position were gone, he moved into a nearby clearing to designate the location to friendly aircraft. In spite of enemy fire, he remained exposed until he was certain the position was spotted, and then climbed into a tree and tied the identification panel to its highest branches. Then he moved among his men, readjusting their position, encouraging the defenders, and checking the wounded. As the hostile assault slackened, he began clearing a helicopter landing site to evacuate the wounded. When explosives were needed to remove large trees, he crawled outside the relative safety of his perimeter to collect demolition material from abandoned rucksacks. Moving through a fusillade of fire, he returned with the explosives that were vital to the clearing of the landing zone. Disregarding the pain of his injury and refusing medical evacuation, First Sergeant McNerney remained with his unit until the next day when the new commander arrived. First Sergeant McNerney's outstanding heroism and leadership were inspirational to his comrades. His actions were in keeping with the highest traditions of the U.S. Army and reflect great credit upon himself and the armed forces of his country. Company A had woke up that morning with 108 troops. 43 would be wounded and 22 would be killed in action. 2 Distinguished Service Crosses, 7 Silver Stars, 25 Bronze Stars, and 65 Purple Hearts were awarded to the members of Company A. In contrast, 130 enemy bodies had been found in the perimeter, along with more than 400 graves. David returned to the States and was sent to Fort Dix, New Jersey, to work as a training instructor. To add to the decorations of the battalion, David received the Medal of Honor from President Johnson on the 19th of September, 1968, in a ceremony at the White House, making him one of 4 1st Battalion members to receive the medal during the Vietnam War. He volunteered for one last deployment to Vietnam, this time with Company B, 2nd Battalion, 8th Cavalry Regiment, 1st Cavalry Division, but instead retired from the Army in December of 1969 after 21 years in service, 4 Navy and 17 Army. David and Parmelia moved to the Houston area, and he got a job at the Port of Houston as a customs inspector. He did this job for 25 years until his retirement in 1995, and he went on to attend events as a speaker. David donated his Medal of Honor to St. Thomas High School in 2004, and in 2010, a documentary was released about his actions and the actions of the men of Company A that day. Honor in the Valley of Tears was co-written by John Ponsell, whose father had served with David that day, and it premiered at the GI Film Festival in Washington, D.C. At the same time, David had been diagnosed with untreatable lung cancer, and he entered hospice care 1 week before his death on the 10th of October, 2010. David Herbert McNerney was 79 years old when he died, and he joined his wife 6 days later in the Houston National Cemetery in Houston, Texas. Section H-A, Site 4. And that was a tale of honor. Thank you for listening to Tales of Honor, and if you enjoyed the show, please be sure to subscribe and tell your friends and family. Tales of Honor is written and produced by Christoph Ambrosch, and theme music is Loyalty and Duty by Floruz Music. If you have any questions, you can send an email to talesofhonorpodcast@gmail.com, and please be sure to visit talesofhonorpodcast.com for more episodes and information.